that work for you.
Hi, and welcome to a new episode of The Power of Her Story. We are delighted to have you join us here today. The Power of Her Story is all about celebrating and curating the journey of women from around the world. And today is no exception. We have a phenomenal woman who has joined us in studio today who will share about her journey. The Power of Her Story is all about women sharing their stories, no matter what that story is all about, how they overcome the life's various challenges, and how they're now impacting communities. It is through our stories we help each other to grow and to glow. And so we are delighted today to have as our guest, Miss Sophia Sears. And Miss Sears, I just have a brief bio, but she is a phenomenal, powerful woman. I have been delighted to come into her acquaintance, I think about 2 years ago, through a mutual friend of ours. And we have continued to maintain that relationship over the years. And so I'm just grateful to have her join us today. And she has I just can't wait. I don't think I will even have to talk today. She has such a powerful, profound story that she will be sharing with us. And, you'll always hear me here say that word powerful, because of course, it's the power of her story. The power of the story influences, it transforms, it transcends, it transitions. And so it gets us from one place to the other. And so for us as women, sometimes you may be feeling stuck, in the midst of COVID-19, economically, emotionally, spiritually, you may feel stuck. But these stories, these nuggets that you will receive from these stories will help you to get over that particular hurdle at this time. And so a little bit about Sophia Sears. She's an author of 4 books, motivational speaker, a licensed Marine captain, and a financial advisor. She's married to Demetrius Sears and the mother of 5 children. She manages and oversees the operations of Haulaway Transport Services, Straight Up Imports, which are operated out of Abaco, Bridging Link Professional Service, which is operated out of Grand Bahama. And she's also the founder for Destined for Destiny Motivational Team. And so you see, she's a busy woman. She's on the move. She has a lot going on. She's a wife. She's a mother, a motivational speaker, a mentor, a business owner. Not just a business owner, I call her a business mogul because that's a number of businesses. And she's actually in a field. Normally, when we hear Marine captain, we normally think, can I see a man? But today she's going to show you and share with you how she has dominated in that particular area as well, which is consistently seen with more males than females. And so let's welcome to our studio today, Sophia Sears.
Hi, Raquel. How are you?
I am good. I hope you are excited as I am.
Yes, I am. I am excited about it. It's a pleasure to be on your show.
Thank you so much. Welcome to RBNTV's The Power of Her Story. And so we're still growing and thriving. And so we're glad that you're a part of our journey as well. And welcome you to tell your story today.
I'm so proud of you. Stepping up to the
Thank you. Trust you me, that's a story within itself. So I will not even begin to tell that story because I think I need about 13 episodes to tell my story. And so thank you so much. Thank you so much. So let's start with you. Who is Sophia Sears? The things that we don't know. Besides knowing that you're a mother, all these other stuff, tell us a little bit more about who is Sophia Sears.
Sophia Sears is a woman is just trusting God every day. Life is committed totally to God. To me, God is my everything. I do nothing without him. My decisions, my movements, I just trust him in everything. And this didn't start just overnight, but over the years, my experiences and all of the things that I went through, having a hard time and going through the dark days, I had to learn to let it go and just trust him because I realized that of myself, I couldn't fix any of the problems that I was going through. And so I turned it all over to God. I can remember way back saying to him, Lord, I am just good, just sitting here, in church and just worshiping you and praising you. And then he came and he turned my world upside down. He said to me, I called you to do more than just sit down. And so
Wow.
this has caused me to really press in more and trust him. You know, sometimes the trials and the tribulations that we go through, some people handle it differently. They take it on their own shoulders and they try to
Mhm.
find ways for solutions, you know, to work it out. But I've learned one thing, that when I release it, he fixed it for me. And so
Well,
that's
amen to that. Go
and
ahead.
so I'm
Sorry.
a woman of prayer.
Mhm.
I spend a lot of time in prayer, and I've learned to press in through my prayer and get
Mhm.
answers from God. And
Mhm.
so my life has been praying through every season, through every situation, whatever I'm faced with. I do a lot of praying. I've learned to travail in prayer, and
Mhm.
to the place where I've learned to tap into the realm of the spirit to get answers. And so
Amen
that's
to
really,
that. Well, I can tell you, we both know what our first encounter was.
yes,
Um, Attending a friend's event, supporting her, and so we were just so happened to sat in the same seat at the the sofa, and we didn't know
mhm.
each other, and but we connected spiritually.
That's
We
how God
connected,
connects. Mhm.
and it was like something happened, and it was like, man, I feel it, and like you look at me, and I look at you, and like, boy, we gotta do this because he telling you, and he telling me to do the same thing, and before we know it, was a whole different scene that was happening. And so sometimes,
Mhm.
he does the like they said, he does the uncommon things that confuses us.
Yes.
But he knows that in order for his glory to be fulfilled in the earth, he does some things because I didn't know what Sophia says before that day, and now you're like a sister. I could call upon you at
Yes.
any given time and to be encouraged. You've spoken into my life on a number of occasions in blessing me and encouraging me as I go forward in my various areas. And so, with that being said, so we know Sophia Sears, the mother of, well, two of the girls I know personally.
Mhm.
And there's also Sophia Sears, the wife. Now, there was a story, and there is a story. And then there's Sophie Says, the Marine captain. Now, tell us that
Yes.
story in there with the whole Marine captain.
My journey is becoming Marine captain started off where with my second husband, he's a man that loves the boat. And
Mm,
so I used to go out with him in the boat, and we had a little boat. And I could remember it being it wasn't a very good, sturdy boat, but I went out with him and I was not experienced about going on the waters. And he took me out with him on several occasions. And I could remember when we got out to sea so far, the weather came down and I started to pray. I said, God, because when it started to rain and it gets rough, it was really, really rough. And I wasn't used to that. So I started praying. I said, Lord, we need another boat. This boat can't make it. And to make a long story short, we end up, God blessed us with another boat. And so I can
hmm
remember sitting on this boat, and God said to me, many days you're going to be in this boat sitting, and he'll be under the sea. And that's what happened. And so he taught me how to run the boat, and he used to teach me in bad weather. And so later on, I decided to pursue it and to get my captain's license. And so I went away to school. I went to Maritime Professional Training School in Fort Lauderdale. So I took some
hmm
classes. And then when I came back, I was able to get my captain's license. But I had some hiccups in that because I
hmm
found out that in that field, they don't care for women too much. So I was persistent. Um, and I prayed and I asked God to open the door for me to be able to do some training at Abaco, which is called Bakai at this time. And I got favor. And so I trained with the pilots because that's what I really wanted to do for 3 years. I said I would do it and I didn't have to be paid because I wanted the experience. And trust me, I was passionate about it and I enjoyed every moment of it. I enjoyed the season, even though I was never hired. I enjoyed
hmm
every moment of it. I also trained with Freeport Tug and Towing and
Mm.
down the tugs. So I learned to operate the tugs as well. So that's where I started off before I even got to Bahaco. And I went
Mhm.
to Coco Key to Royal Caribbean. So I learned to operate the twin screw. I've had some
No.
disappointments along the way. But what happened for me is that because my husband is a boat person, we transitioned to many boats. And one of our boats at one time was small, and we had the auto rental in Abaco. And many
Mhm.
times we had so much stuff in that little boat, I had to run the boat from Freeport to Abaco. So all of
Wow.
the experience, yes, he was in the bow because we couldn't get up because we had so much load. I had to run the boat, and then many times we had situations with engine problems. I had to run the boat while he tried to fix it. So the experiences that I had has helped us even with our business because we have spent a lot of time going back and forth to Abaco. So I had experience many times he could do whatever he needed to do, not have to worry. So
Mhm.
I thank God for the gifts and the talents that He imparted into my life. And so I don't look at the negative part that I didn't get hired, but we have our own business that I can help him with running the boat. And so that's where I'm at with that.
Yes, indeed, multi-talented and definitely gifted. And this
Yeah.
is a perfect segue when you talk about gifted because now you talked about being a Marine captain, but you're also an author and a motivational speaker. You have 4 books. Tell us about
Yes.
these books. What inspired you to write these books? Because I mean, I call it a great divide from being a Marine captain on the seas and managing through rough seas and helping with cargo, assisting your husband with cargo and the car rental company to motivational speaking and writing books. Tell us about that transition or that part of your journey.
I started writing from my first marriage when the Lord visited me. I was watching a movie in the first marriage. I didn't know what was about to happen, what was about to take place, but I had a successful business and things were booming and everything was going good. So I never even thought in my mind that anything could go wrong at this time. Had a business making money every day, and people just drolled into the snack shop that we had, selling parties and foods and stuff. And I was managing that. I was bringing in trailers
Mm-hmm.
and running the business. And I had like 5 on staff. And so business was booming. And we went to the place where, where they have the Wendy's now on that strip. I think the
Mm-hmm.
Wendy's parking lot is the property at that time. We got that property and things were going good. We had plans drawn about to build townhouses. And we went to a movie and I watched Ever After, a Cinderella movie. And I heard the Lord speak to me and say to me after the movie is over, He said, "Your life will take that pattern." And I paused. I said, "Lord, my life will take that pattern." I said, "That woman went through hell." And after I watched that movie, everything began to go downhill for me. I found out that that husband was having an affair and he was not coming home. And so things began to go wrong. And I found out later on that he moved everything from one bike to the next. So all I was left with was with my car. And it was really hard. It was really rough. I had 2 friends that stuck with me that helped me through it. And that was where I had to learn to trust God because I was left without anything. I lost, I mean, literally everything that I had worked for, that I built up. He took it and he pushed me out of the business and put the woman in it to work. And I was left just there. And so after my experience with that, the Lord led me to write. He said, "Write. As you go through, you write everything that you go through." And He gave me the name Destined for Destiny 20 years ago. He said, "Write down Destined for Destiny, a Cinderella story." So that was where I would tell all that I had encountered and all that I had gone through. And so I have so many books to write because I've gone through so much. So I take them and I write them down as He lead me and to help inspire and to encourage other people, to let them know that in spite of what you go through, God can bring you out of it. He can turn whatever looks dark and dim, he can make the best out of it. He can give you an encouragement for someone else, because sometimes we walk things to help other people. And so instead of me
That is
becoming bitter, I became to a place where I was full of forgiveness and love. And so I've been filled with love. My heart was overwhelmed with love, because I realized that love covered a multitude of sin. And so, in order for me to move forward and not to hold on to anything, I learned to let it go. And I put it in God's hands. And He led my life. And He promised me that He would give me another husband, which He did. And
wow.
so, yes, so that's how Destined for Destiny came about, for my walk and what I went through, and the fact that He did do what He promised and give me someone else. And so
Now,
that's where
this right here is, I want us to stick a pin right in there for a moment. You talk about your marriage and what happened. It went from a fairy tale story into a downward spiral to turn back out to be a fairy tale story once again. And this word you will constantly hear from me: process. You mentioned sometimes we have to walk a road, not necessarily for us, but for somebody else. I want you to stop right now and just take a moment to speak to any woman who may be watching at this time who is going through a dark and difficult moment in their marriage, because they feel that, okay, my life has come to an end, all is all lost. You know, what do you say? Because you're sitting here years later, growing and glowing as God has blessed you once again. Speak to a woman at this time and encourage her.
I would like to say to going through, turn yourself over to God. Pray and ask God what direction He wants you to take and what is His plan for your life. That is what I did. I asked God, what is His plan for my life? And so, as you ask God what is His plan for your life, you have to trust Him in the process. Never let yourself become bitter. Never let yourself come to the place where you let someone cause you to give up. You have to trust Him in all that you're going through and allow Him to work it out. He might have you to stay with that spouse, as well as He might have you to walk away from it. You have to ask Him what is His plan for your life. That is the key. And in trusting God, that means you can't hold it, you can't carry it, you cannot allow it to stop you. You still have to pursue, you still have to move forward. That means focus on what you're doing. I can remember many times in the midst of my dark days, I get dressed up to make, and I walk out and I'm confident, and no one knew what I was going through because I was trusting God. There were days that it didn't look like God was going to come through, and it didn't look like I would find my way out of it. But the key is you have to trust the process. You have to trust, even though days are dark and you can't see where you're going, God knows exactly where you're going to go. And He knows exactly where you're going to end up. And that's why I can say to you, you have to trust the process and you have to trust Him in the midst of it. If you don't, you will go crazy. You'll pull your hair out. And in some cases, some people commit suicide, and you don't want to do that. So just turn it all over to Him. Find a place where you can pray and release things. That's the key, releasing. Because a lot of people hold on to stuff. And when you hold on to things, it builds up that against the person. And then you leave openings for the enemy to come in. And you don't want to do that, because when you leave openings in your life, the enemy finds a way to come in. And he comes in and he tries to destroy you, to mix you up. And after he mix you up, then he'll tell you, kill yourself. So you don't want to do that. So you want to release it to God, allow God to work it out for you. Trust Him. Because as you trust Him, whatever it is He has for you at an appointed time, it will come. Don't care how many years it is. God has it mapped out for you. You have to trust Him.
For so many, because for so many persons, we talk the trusting part of the journey. And like you said, it can take years. And so we tend to now want to put our hands into God's process. And it's similar to the children of Israel. You know, he had a plan for them that would have taken them out of Egypt into the promised land, which we said, different theologians, some say 3 days, some say 11 days, but we know it took them 40 years. And that was a
Yes.
process in itself. Now, it could have taken them 3 years, 3 days rather, but it turned out to be 40 years. Because there was some time, I look at it as 40 years represents a generation. There were some things that he was removing out of, because as we know through that process, there was plenty complaining.
Yeah.
They were getting everything they needed to have to survive. I should say they needed everything they needed, not what they may have wanted, but everything that they needed. Sometimes we focus on not the needs, because every day he supplies our need.
Yes.
We can breathe. We got the mobility of our limbs. I call it, that's the basic of the needs. Now we'll of course add in the clothing, shelter, and food. That's added. But for me, if I could breathe and I got mobility, I could find food. I can't find breakfast.
Yes.
I can't give that to myself. I can't give myself mobility of limbs. That is all God. So I need him to do that for me. However, he will provide the food. He will provide the other things but I have to depend solely on him. So we sometimes become misguided in that process. When you get a bag, but no, it wasn't a Fendi bag. So we complain that it couldn't have been a Fendi. You don't need that. That was a want. That was a desire.
Yes.
That isn't something you need. So you start complaining and not keeping focus that God is providing all of your needs. And so when we start to murmur, complain, and we think we helping God along, but not realizing that we are prolonging our process. And so sometimes the years come about as a result of, if you sit back and you think, because he had to keep bringing allowing the process to extend, to allow the discipline, the patience, the faith, all these things are growing in this time of process. And so when you get to that point, when it happens, you'd be like, when you look back, it's like, I could have been here a long time. But we get in the midst of the process. And so sometimes we see people who may go through similar situations as ourselves. Like you said, you went through the process of, through your divorce and, the struggles during your marriage. And here it is that you're married again. You know what I mean? People are still trying to find the first husband. But again, it's a process. It's a process. And so they may look and say, and that's what then starts to happen. They look at us, Sophia, but they know what you had to endure to get to where you are at, and why God is doing what he's doing in your life. Don't envy and don't cover what Sophia have, because you may be covered in some of the challenges that comes with that as well.
So
Are you
true.
prepared for that? Are you prepared for that? So we now look at Sophia, the financial advisor, because we talk about process. We talk about Sophia, not so much we talk about you as a mother, but I guess somewhat as a mother and a wife. But we looked at from a businesswoman perspective, where you, as I call it, a business mogul, having businesses in both Abaco and here in Grand Bahama. And then we look at your marriage, what happened and how they were all connected. And as a result of that, it caused for you to become an author. So who would have known that the challenges you faced would now put you in a position that you are now an author, where your books are being sold everywhere. And now, not only that, as a result of that, you are a mentor and a financial advisor. So who would have known this story, after watching Ever After movie, would become you being all of this at this particular moment in time? And so now that's another element as a financial advisor. How did that come about?
I've always been good with dealing with money. The financial end of the business, I always did all of that. all of the bookkeepings, all of the payrolls, and everything when it came to finances. I love dealing with money. In my home, I set up everything, I make sure everything is paid. And one day the Lord spoke to me and he said to me, "You are called to be a financial advisor." And when I looked back at my life and I looked at how I dealt with money, and I could find ways to invest, I can find ways, I tell people I could take $1 and make 100 out of it if I need to. I've always been gifted to make the money grow.
Mm-hmm.
And I know how to run it. And I budget, I stay on a budget. I don't just spend like a lot of people spend. And so I came to the place where I'm able to encourage people to save and to budget their money and not to spend it, because a lot of people, I look around me and I look at how people spend, even my children, and they get upset at me, and I tell them, save your money. And this virus, before the virus shut down, I can remember God speaking to me, and he said to me, teach my people to save. He said, because when hard times come, many will not be able to make it. And it was not too long after he told me to tell my children and the girls in the shop, their salon, they all got upset at me. But in a matter of a week or two, the virus came about and the shop had to shut down. And one of the girls said, "Miss Says, you must know what you was talking about." Because I was singing in their ears every day. I watch how they spend their money. You know, a lot of people spend their money on food. And I say to them, I said, a lot of times you put your money in the toilet. If you sit down and how much money you spend that you're not going to get back, yes, you can eat, but budget yourself on how much money you're going to spend. You're spending $10 to $12 a day on lunch, and you're not adding up, not saving anything, and then you're wondering where my money went. And then when time to pay your bills, you're short. And so I've been able to in my
Go ahead. You can go ahead.
In one of my in the men's event, I've been teaching the men how to save. And I've been doing demonstrations. God has been using me a lot to my events in demonstrations, whereas I have like containers and I have where the money is going. Like I would have one for food and one for the phone card, one for gas, your light bill and all of that. And so I used one of the men and had them to put the money in the containers. And when it was all said and done, okay, you put the money in, how much you have left for rent? And I had them to go to the ATM. I use the ATM machine, how you go and get the money and all of that. And to show them how they're spending their money. And so now when it's time to pay your rent, the money is short. What are you going to do? They all said, borrow. I said, and you repeat that cycle over and over and over. And when we went to the jars, most of the money went to food. So a lot of people spend their money on food. And so it was an encouragement to the men, because you get so much money every week. And if you don't budget your money and put it aside for each bill that you have to pay, or put aside for savings, you're just going to spend it. And so that's where financial advising came in, where I can advise people that you don't just take your money and put it in your pocket, because you're not going to know where it goes.
That is so true. And, you know, as you were sharing, particularly with your daughters and friends with the salon, it reminds me of the biblical story with Joseph. When Joseph was having his dreams, you know, once the dreams were interpreted, it was about 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine. I'm a proponent of, and I'm open for this, you know, to someone to change my mind on this. But at this moment, there's always a warning as it relates.
Yes.
COVID did not just happen. Now, some of us may not know how to respond. That's a difference. But the warnings, I tell them, we don't have a recession just pop up on us. You wake up in the morning and then there's news, alert, alert, everybody, there's a recession. There's a gradual approach to it. Same thing, even with Dorian. I now the challenge, and I know, and we're not having necessarily a financial conversation. I know for many people, particularly here in Grand Bahama, where they will speak to the economy. Now, for both of us, we know we ascribe to a different kind of economy, and so because of what we do and how we do what we do, then we able to tap into something of greater source. So a lot of people tap
Yes.
into their resource. We tap into the source, and so
Yes.
with the source, there's no lack, and the source provides the
Right.
wisdom, as he did with you, to be able to prepare and to plan. And
Yes.
I watched for myself during Dorian. Once I knew what was going to happen, we've already had a number of experiences with previous hurricanes. So I positioned myself and prepared myself. Now, of course, no one would have known the level of the catastrophic hurricane that would have hit us with Dorian and the aftermath. But
Yes.
I had a little cushion, I call it, to be able to, when I say because I lost my home in the process, lost my home in the process,
Yes.
but I had a little cushion and was literally, I call it, at day one, was able to jump up and go. A lot of people didn't have that. But that didn't just happen overnight for me. It took years of understanding and planning and making mistakes and then being able to realize, create strategies. That's the word I'm looking for, to create strategies. And now with my daughter, I have a 21-year-old who will be 22 this year. She is already now doing certain things. And I said to her, this is how this is going to be. And this is how your money is going to be. When she started, she was schooling and working. And when she started that, the first year, I allowed her to manage her money. And so at the end of the year, I say, okay, show me what, from what you made this year. Show me what you did with it. Similar, like, I call it the story again, the talents. Okay, show me what you did. You didn't do anything. Hold on. The following year, I took her salary. I gave her $50 every week to take care of personal effects, etc., like that, to help her to manage. So I understand I'm saying all of this to say I understand the importance, because without that savings and preparing, and savings does not constitute, and I tell anyone will know about that. Trust me, when you talk about a dollar out of 100, there's a song they say, learn to make a dollar out of 50 cents. But I learned that the hard way. And sometimes we don't have to. We have persons like you we can come to when without having to make a mistake. Like they say, wisdom is learning from everybody else's on. And so, unfortunately, I had to learn from my own mistakes. And that helped me to shape up very quickly because, particularly with Dorian, I was I was eternally grateful because so many people was impacted. If I had to come to Sophia and say, Sophia, could you lend me $5,000 to just get me going? Sophia in the same position probably because so many around us was impacted. It was difficult to say, let me run to this one and this one's going to help me. So it wasn't an isolated situation. It was a community. It was an island-wide situation. And so it limited everybody's resources to help each other. Everybody's looking for help at this moment. And so I'm just thankful for, these kinds of tips that you are sharing. And I pray that persons would tap into your books. And of course, before we wrap up, we want you to share where to get the books and where to find you for financial advice. Because with the economic challenge that we have, many people find it very challenging to survive. I am now praying for persons who feel that life has ended because they are not in the position financially as they used to be and because of the loss. And it's only, I guess it's easy for persons to say it's a material loss because it isn't you. But in fact, from a biblical perspective, it's a material loss. And sometimes God is doing it, just like he did with Job, to bless your latter. He wants to see where your heart is. Is your heart simply just in this house, in this pretty car? Or is your heart with me? And
True.
so when you show that my heart is with you, because still we make our monies our gods.
That
Money's
is
become an
true.
idol. And once we put ourselves in that position where our money become an idol, and that's why it's difficult for some people to give. They want to just see it. They want to see them zeros behind them big numbers. And then one now moves, I can't touch that and I can't. But I tell people one sickness could wipe out $1 million account. One. Only
Yes,
one.
it could.
And you only have two. One. One sickness can
True.
wipe out. And so in all of this, I, I try to pull nuggets from the stories that the women would share. And today, I am getting from you is trust,
Yes.
trusting God. And you have turned everything over to God and
Mhm.
allowed Him to lead and guide your path. And it has brought you to your wealthy place, to
Yes.
your Canaan, to your land of milk and honey.
Mhm.
And, sometimes it's difficult when the journey starts. Sometimes you look back in Egypt and say, well, I might as well go back because it's a little rough. But if we stick and stay and trust God in the process, the land of
True.
milk and honey is right ahead. It's just that sometimes we're not
Yes.
disciplined, we're not patient, and we're not allowing Him to build our character because He's preparing us so that you could handle the things that are ahead. And so if we understand, if He's giving you $100 and you can't manage $100, you can't pray for $1 million.
It is so
You
true.
can't even handle 100.
True.
And so that's a difficult pill to swallow. And that was one I had to learn. I'm like, okay, everybody, like they say, everybody want to be a millionaire. Okay. Or most people. Everybody want the rags to riches story. But are we thankful where we at? We only ready to be thankful when we arrive to where we think we should be. But again, this journey is trust. When I take everything away from you, can you still be thankful? And that's where
That's
normally
true.
the challenge comes in. And so today, our word of nugget is we have to trust the process and trust the God of the process, that He will take you to your land of milk and honey. And so the
Yeah.
Sophia says that we would have probably known some 20 years ago is definitely not the person that we see today because she has gone through a process that took her down a road of a broken marriage, losing a thriving business, and basically being left without anything.
Yes.
And who was to know that now she has businesses? She is sitting and advising and counseling persons as it relates to finances. She's writing books about her story, about what she has been, she's gone through, destined for destiny. These are the things that she has written and continues to write that helps to empower us, that helps to motivate and inspire us to greatness, to be able to trust this God. And so we're going to wrap up. And so I want you to leave some closing words for us. And at the end of it, I want you to also tell us where to find your books, where to find you. So all of that, this time is now yours. And so I want you to give us some, parting words and to also, once again, let us know. We need to know where to find these books and where to find you.
I want to encourage everyone to trust God, like I said before. Trust the process. I realize that for some people that's hard. But if you trust God, He will bring you out. I can tell you that when you're in your darkest days, most of the times you don't hear from Him. He says nothing because you're in the process, you're in that fire. But as He brings you out of the fire, He's going to lead you and He's going to show you where He has for you to go. Some days it's going to be, you're not going to feel like getting up. Some days you're going to feel like all hope is gone. Yes, you're going to feel like that. Some days you're going to feel like you don't know where to go and where to turn, because especially if you've lost everything. I know that feeling to just lose everything. I've been there. But I didn't lose hope. I
Mhm.
didn't lose my faith. That's the one thing you have to hold on to. I didn't lose that. That was the key for me. Because when you know who God is, you know that He's able to do exceedingly abundantly above what you could think or ask. Let me tell you, sometimes He'll do things, He'll blow your mind. And He shows up in a way when you least expect Him. Even the fact that, even with example with the way me and Raquel met, we sat next to one another, and the Holy Spirit connected us. It was a connection that we could both feel, and we've been connected ever since. God will put people in your life that will help you to get where you need to get. It's all for His glory. We need to remember that what we go through is not for us. It is for the glory of God. We must never forget that whatever it is that we go through and wherever He takes us and wherever we end up, it is not for us. It is for the glory of the Lord. So that is my encouragement to you, that whatever it is that you have to go through, walk the process. Do not give up. Let God get the glory out of your life and being an impact in someone else's life. It is to transform someone else. Yes, it's hard, and yes, it's painful. But the glory will be seen at the end of the day. And so that's my encouragement to someone out there who might be in their darkest hour. Yes, I understand. And sometimes it gets very, very dark. And sometimes I can tell you, I cry a lot. But in the midst of my crying, I complain to God in my crying and tell Him, Lord, I am so tired. And I still have to wake up the next day and go through my process. I said, Lord, I'm tired. And I get up and give me strength for the next day. So He will give you strength. When you feel like your strength gone, He's going to give you the strength that you need to go through until He's finished with you. Yeah. It is a process. I did a demonstration where He gave me that demonstration of what it is for the process in one of my book launches, where you go into this fire and it burns off all your mind battles, all of the things that you have inside of you that are not of Him, where you cannot see, makes your eyes, your vision clearer. So all those things are the process to take off all those things that look bad and about you, your bad personality, your bad attitudes, all those things, the fire burns off of you. And when He's finished, His glory will be seen. You'll look more beautiful and you'll be a better person. You'll be in a better position to minister to someone else and to encourage someone else. So that's my closing. I want to encourage you. You can get my books. They're on Amazon.com, or you can get them from me personally. My phone number is 242-804-5168. And I'm available to help anyone who might need help. The Lord led me just recently to help a business that the husband is not doing well and is under attack. And He put me in the position and He showed me a vision to help these people. So I'm trying to help them to get their business up and going. And so that's what I'm working on right now. I'm helping someone to get their business on the go and show them how to set it up financially. And so if you need my help, I'm available. So you can call me. And so that's the gift God has given to me, and I'm using it. So God bless you, and you be encouraged.
God bless you too. And that was the powerful story with Sophia Sears. We are so delighted to have pulled away all of those nuggets from Sophia Sears today. But the primary nugget today was about trusting the process. And in the midst of our darkest moments, we know that God has light there at the end of the tunnel. We just have to go through, because it's bringing about discipline, it's bringing about patience, it's building character. It's just doing so many things in us that we may not see at that moment. All we do is we feel that it's uncomfortable. And so we say to you, hold on, just continue to trust the process. God is not surprised by anything that you're going through. He's right there with you, and He just wants you to go through because He has greater on the other side for you. And so thank you once again for joining another episode of The Power of Her Story. And remember, life is a journey of people, places, and perspectives. God bless you. Continue to tune in with us every Monday at 6 p.m. on RBNTV Studio. Feel free to follow us on our Facebook page, RBNTV Studio, or on Instagram, Or you can just feel free to email us at rbntvstudio@gmail.com and let us know what you think of our shows, if you wish to advertise, or anything of that sort. We just want to hear from you. And so as you go to our YouTube page, not only watch our videos, but like and subscribe so you'll get notifications when new videos and new episodes are coming out. Thank you once again, and see you again real soon.
RBNTV. We are networking, promoting, we're scoring points for you, proclaiming, declaring, here to encourage you. No matter the problem, we will enlighten you. We hear you, please listen.